So before we continue with the video, I want to talk to you guys about where I got this shirt from, and you probably guessed it, jerseyfifa.com. They have kindly sponsored today's video and also sent me a load of free shirts for me to check out myself, and I can now really vouch for the quality of these products. They have loads of shirts to offer on the website, so if you are interested, head to the link in the description down below and check out Jersey FIFA for yourself. Hey guys, welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel. I'm not sure why I said the word "to" for so long. I guess it's the effect of losing to Liverpool. It's not good for your brain. However, in a season like the one that Manchester United are facing at the moment, going through, there's kind of no time to dwell on it. That 7-0 hurt, and Manchester United, I'm sure, are wounded by it, but tough luck, basically. You've got to pick yourself up and go again in the next game, because Manchester United have a big game on Thursday. I think the Europa League against Real Betis, it represents a really good opportunity to get Champions League football next season. I think before the season started, ultimately, that was the aim. Now, yes, the top four looks quite likely at the moment. However, having the Europa League as a backup is quite handy. So if Manchester United can win the Europa League, they guarantee themselves a spot in the top, in the Champions League top competition. So the question is, how do you beat Real Betis? This will be a two-part video. Will it? Like one part this week, one part next week, as in I will also preview the second leg. I'm really struggling with words. The Liverpool loss has got to me. Let's try that again. Manchester United have got Real Betis on Thursday. They want to beat them. Let's look at how they can beat them. So, before we can talk about kind of tactically how we can break down Manchester United, we need to figure out what on earth the starting 11 is going to be. Because, of course, we had that damaging 7-0 defeat. And how Ten Hag reacts to that is going to be really interesting. I see a world where he puts out the exact same 11 and basically goes, redeem yourselves and fix the mess that you made at the weekend. Because, you know, you didn't run enough, so go run this week, please. Or I could also see him going to 5 or 6 players. You weren't really good enough, get out of the team. And, you know, get dropped to prove that no one is safe in the team. So what I would go for is this. Malacia in for Shaw at left back. Shaw was really poor at the weekend, so I'd make that change. Lindelof in for Rafael Varane for the sake of resting Varane and getting minutes in Lindelof. Keep Dalot at fullback for this game. Casemiro, of course, in the midfield. Sabitzer replacing Fred. Sancho replacing Bruno Fernandes. I think that's the big call, but is one that I would make. And Garnacho replacing Weghorst, with Rashford again playing up top, Garnacho on the left wing. This is roughly what I would go for. And I could see Ten Hag doing something similar, but we'll kind of have to wait and see. Let me know in the comments down below what your 11 would be. Regardless of the 11, I think this game is going to kind of take a similar theme. Now, people are looking at Real Betis and going, it's quite easy. Real Betis aren't easy, they really need some respect on their names. Start of last month, they lost 2-1 to Barcelona, put in a good performance. Barcelona scored late to win the game, Betis went down to 10 men. Was not an easy game for Barcelona. And then literally, when I'm recording this, last night they drew 0-0 with Real Madrid. So, this Betis team are good, they're not to be messed with. I mean, Real Madrid beat Liverpool 5-2 and only drew 0-0 with Real Betis. So, Betis are a good side. So Manchester United need to find a way to play through them. It isn't as easy as, you know, it's Betis, go beat them. It's not that easy. So Manchester United need to figure out a way through. To do that, we need to look at what Betis will do. So from a defensive point of view, Real Betis will set up in a 4-2-3-1 initially. Unfortunately for them, key man Fekir is missing with an injury. So they'll set up in this 4-2-3-1. However, defensively, it will often represent a bit more of a 4-4-2. With Rodri in this attack midfielder position, often pushing up alongside the striker to form a front two like this. And early on in the game in particular, I would not be surprised to see them putting a press on. And of course, as it always does, that represents a problem for Manchester United, because Manchester United have no press-resistant players apart from Martinez and Shaw, and I'm not even starting Shaw in this game. So this will cause a problem for Manchester United. Ten Hag needs to find a way around it. I think I've got a solution for this game. So, Malacia wide, Dalot wide. What this is going to do is distract the two Betis wingers. Makes sense, that is how they will do it. Then Betis will have this front two, and their aim will be to match up with the two centre-backs. So the way for Manchester United to counter this is to use Casemiro as the pivot, which means pushing Sabitzer a little bit higher onto Rodriguez here, Sancho higher here onto Carvalho, and playing Casemiro in the centre. Now, what this looks like on paper it's going to do is open up the easy pass from De Gea to Casemiro. However, Rodri and Iglesias won't let that happen, they will defend a little bit narrower. So, I would ask Lisandro Martinez to take goal kicks. Something a little bit different that we don't really talk about on the channel. However, it's a ploy that I would be using in this game, so let me explain why. If David De Gea takes the goal kicks and passes wide to Lisandro Martinez, it is much easier for the opposition to then press from here, because one of them can kind of cut the pass to Casemiro and the other can go towards De Gea. So what you can do is shadow press with Rodri, striker on De Gea. Lisandro Martinez now has no options on the ball, right? Or it could happen out the other side. De Gea could take the goal kick and pass wide to Lindelof. The point is when the goalkeeper takes the goal kick, the ball has to go wider. Instead, what I want is to create more passing angles, so I want the ball to go central. The way for that to happen is Lisandro Martinez or Lindelof to take the goal kick. And basically, keep the two centre-backs wide. Lisandro Martinez takes the goal kick to De Gea and then splits wide. Because now, you're going to ask questions of Betis. Because the first thing that can happen, De Gea now has time on the ball. So he can go wide to Lindelof, who can step forward with the ball in here. Because Betis are narrower, trying to cut off the pass to Casemiro. The same can happen to Lisandro Martinez on the other side as well. Or these two strikers will split and kind of use that as the pressing trigger, but then there's this opportunity to get the ball in towards Casemiro. I think if Manchester United do this at the back, with Betis only really pressing with a front two, I think Manchester United, should be able to play through this press. United normally are quite bad at it, however, I think this is a system which they will be able to break. We have seen Lisandro Martinez taking goal kicks in the past, and this is why I think it's a way for Manchester United to play through this press, and basically from there I think they will dominate possession. Both Real Madrid and Barcelona had over 60% of the ball against Betis. I'm expecting a similar theme, so the question from here is how will Betis defend, and how will Manchester United break it down? So, to answer that first question there, Betis will set up in a narrow 4-4-2 shape from a defensive point of view. Certainly that will be their initial idea. So if Manchester United have played through the press, Betis are happy to sit off and let you have the ball. How can Manchester United break it down? That is the more difficult question. However, I think again we've got a solution, and I think the solution always, or nearly always, against a front two is to play with a back three. The reason for this, as we've discussed before, is because if you play with just two centre-backs, you allow the opposition to match you man for man, it makes it quite difficult, and they can shadow press Casemiro. By using a back three with one of the fullbacks tucking in, you are now creating a 4 versus 2 situation rather than a 3 versus 2. In a 3 versus 2, you can use the shadow press to cover the extra man. In a 2 versus 4, you simply can't. So Manchester United should be able to get the ball in this way. Now, in terms of what fullback it is tucking in to make the back three, for me it depends on what side the ball is. If Manchester United are trying to build down the left-hand side, Malacia should be given his licence to step forward, with Dalot tucking in, but it can also happen the other way as well, when Manchester United want to build the ball down the other side of the pitch. Quite simple stuff, and this will allow Manchester United to move the ball forward. Both Malacia and Dalot are comfortable tucking in a little bit, so I think this works. From here, what can Manchester United do? Well, one option is to get the ball into Casemiro with Lindelof splitting two strikers, or with the wider centre-backs going into Casemiro. I think there is certainly potential for him to be the free man there. The other option is to play wide to this more advanced fullback. Again, whichever side of the pitch it is, it's kind of the same thing. And what Betis will do from here is basically get dragged out of position a little bit. Let's say Garnacho is on this side, the fullback wants to go tight to him, the winger wants to come tight on Malacia, and also they want to follow Sabitzer. We can see now that Casemiro can become the three man. So essentially, Lisandro Martinez and Casemiro can both help out the fullback here to generate this extra bit of space. I also think, again, that the same thing could happen on the other side. If we move them all across like so, the same pattern can occur down this side of the pitch. With, again, the fullback on the winger, Perez coming out, Carvalho onto Sancho, Casemiro can be your free man in the middle here, or your wider centre-back can. On the wider centre-backs, in Lindelof and Malacia in this situation, I think there's going to be plenty of room for them to step forward with the ball. So let's say Betis, again, are back in their narrow 4-4-2, they're kind of in their mid-block shape. Manchester United's wider players here should have room to step forward. Whether they're then playing the ball wide or into the feet of the striker, they should have this room to step forward with the ball. What they should also do by stepping forward here is, again, get Casemiro on the ball. I really think Casemiro is the free man in this particular system. It won't be easy to get the ball to him. If Manchester United were building with two centre-backs again, then, they could shadow press and cut it. However, by building with a back three, I think Manchester United can get the ball to Casemiro. From here, Manchester United can have some fun, because what they have is midfield overloads. And with Sabitzer, Casemiro and Jadon Sancho up against Carvalho and Rodriguez, we can see Manchester United are dominant. What this means is Casemiro is going to have time on the ball, not something the opposition want. So we can see the ball going into Rashford's feet. Up against the two centre-backs, he could have this room to make it even a 4 versus 2 in midfield, which has the potential to be deadly. But also, I think getting Sancho in this half space here, Sabitzer in this half space here, could be very, very dangerous for Manchester United. It's something that we saw Barcelona doing to them towards the start of last month, and it was the likes of Pedri, Gavi getting into some really good areas in his pockets. Sancho and Sabitzer can provide a lot of quality. I also think down the right-hand side we could see rotation, with Anthony coming inside, Sancho moving wider. That could certainly work as well. We know that Sancho likes to do this when he starts central, drift wide and get into these pockets of space. But these little half spaces, I think, are areas where Manchester United can have a lot of success. From here, we know the quality they possess. That ability, particularly with someone like Sancho or also Sabitzer, to slide the ball in behind the defence for Rashford to run onto, will be a big, big threat in this game. Also though, this ball to Anthony here Basically, Manchester United could quite easily create a 5 versus 4, which we've seen time and time again recently, has really hurt opposition defences. So as I've mentioned already, this is a pattern which Barcelona used to quite good effect against Betis again at the start of last month. However, Pellegrini, the Betis manager, is a good manager, and he isn't someone that will just watch his team get torn apart and kind of pulled into different positions. He won't let that happen, and he does usually have a response. Now, the question is, does he respond quick enough? Because Manchester United in this shape, building with a back three up against a 4-4-2, creating those central overloads and then getting the ball in behind to Rashford, creating that 5 versus 4 against the defence, Manchester United could cause a lot of problems. So the question is, will Betis react quick enough? Now, if they don't, Manchester United could be out of sight. However, if they do react, what they will most likely do is to move to more of a back 5. And what we can often see is their right winger dropping into more of a wing-back role. And their right back will tuck into right centre-back, the centre-back shift across, and now they have a back 5. Again, we saw this against Barcelona, less so against Real Madrid, but against Barcelona this was quite a heavy feature at times. And of course, when you play with a back 5, it's really difficult to break down. Now you might think that this is going to leave this space here for Malacia free. Not necessarily, because what Rodri is then happy to do is drop into a right mid, but again it's really narrow, that sort of spot. And now they have a 5-4-1 shape. If they do this, that could be a problem for Manchester United because it's very difficult to break down. However, what it would allow United to do is be even more attacking, even more expressive. Because Betis are going to lack the numbers to counter-attack, so Manchester United can commit a bit higher, but also because they now only need two centre-backs. Before they were needing 3 players back here to kind of outnumber the situation, now they only need 2. Even if the striker is going to split the centre-backs, they still have room to carry the ball forward. So Manchester United could have success there. From there, I think probably the 2-3-5 shape is the best shape to go for, with Malacia and Dalot reasonably wide, but either side of Casemiro, and again Sabitzer and Sancho in his half spaces. I think this is where probably Manchester United win and lose this game, is in the half spaces. If Sancho and Sabitzer are on it, they could cause problems. Now, the real benefit for this shape is that, again, Manchester United can create overloads all over the pitch. So let's say Dalot in this wide area. He now has the ability to step forward with the ball more than what he did in that previous shape. Wide of the Betis midfield. The 4 will be quite compact in the centre from Betis because they want to restrict the space in the middle. But this will allow someone like Dalot to step forward with the ball. And we know that both him and Malacia can be quite effective when doing so. However, what this does is it drags Betis about the pitch. Perez then has to come across, Carvalho has to come across on Sancho. But again, look who potentially could be free. Casemiro. And like I've said already, getting Casemiro free is a real weapon. Casemiro in this area is just very good on the ball. Again, he can find Rashford's feet, although in this situation he's more likely to be pressured with the extra centre-back there. However, again, what we're looking at is Sabitzer in this little pocket of space here, but also Jadon Sancho in this pocket. These are the areas where Manchester United can cause problems. Again, we can see a potential, maybe a 4 versus 2 with Rashford, but certainly a 3 versus 2 with Sancho, Casemiro and Sabitzer. We can see that 3 versus 2 forming. Now, yes, the wide midfielders could come inside and help, but then Manchester United can really push the fullbacks forward and pin Betis all the way back. And this is one of the reasons I'd play Lindelof, for his superior ability on the ball, because the way I see this game going is Manchester United dominating possession, so United need their best ball players on the pitch, whilst also rotating, so I think Lindelof is a good way of doing that. But I think this would give Manchester United the opportunities to really get the ball moving forward. I see a lot of potential for ball progression in this game. Now, in terms of actually in the final third, how do you create chances? That's something which remains to be seen, you know. At the end of the day, to a certain extent for the manager, it's about getting the ball forward, kind of tactically, getting your team into the positions to get into the final third. To an extent, you then rely on individual quality. Someone who could provide that is certainly Garnacho in his 1 versus 1 ability up against a winger. He could have some real success down this side, especially if Malacia can support him. Anthony on the other side needs to be front-footed with his approach, really get at the defender, force him on the back foot, get United moving forward. Something else which United need to take advantage of, though, is the fact that Betis like to defend one side. One side heavy, they like to get players ball side over like this. With Manchester United keeping width on the other side with someone like Anthony or Garnacho, the ability to go backwards and then switch the pass is important, because what you can then do is create overloads, with the wing-back either coming tight to Anthony, which creates this room for Dalot, or he tracks to run a Dalot, but this leaves room for Anthony. I think there are plenty of situations where Manchester United can get the ball forward into the final third. The question is, will we see the quality? that's something which we can't really predict. We're just going to have to wait and see whether or not that happens. One thing that I would certainly consider doing is putting Sabitzer in the team. I think his ability in the final third, his creativity would be handy. His ability on the ball could really help Manchester United break this Betis team down. But also Sancho. I think he brings a technical cleanness to his game, which Bruno Fernandes doesn't. I think Fernandes needs to be, let's call it, rested after that Liverpool game. Sancho and Sabitzer, for me, could be the keys in this game. I think getting in those pockets of space could lead to some real chance-creating opportunities for Sancho, for Sabitzer, for Antony, for Garnacho, and then ultimately it's going to be on Rashford to kind of take those opportunities in the final third. So those are my thoughts on how I would approach the game, how genuinely I think Ten Hag will approach the game in some sort of way similar to this. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. What would your approach be? What would your starting 11 be? Because that's quite a hot topic. What are your predictions on the final score? Let me know all of that in the comment section down below. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you have enjoyed the video. And as always, I will see you in the next one.